Did you know that there are certain metal roofing colors that you shouldn't mix paint run batches with on the same job site? That's what we're talking about in today's Q&A Mondays. I'm Thad Barnette here on the Metal Roofing channel. I've got Tom Southerland from the Sheffield Metals team. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Oh, proud to be here.
So we're talking about colors that you shouldn't mix paint run batches on the same job site. And this term that is used in the industry is called visual match colors. And even on manufacturers' websites and color cards, there's usually some language, some information about not mixing those colors from different paint line runs. So we're talking about that today. So Tom, let's talk about what that means and what are the types of colors that typically should not be mixed between paint run batches.
Well, visual matches are colors when they run material at a paint line. Everything is measured with a computer, and the computer runs different spectrums of colors and stuff like that. When you get into certain colors that have different pigments in them to where they're a lot harder to read than other colors. And we'll kind of get into what some of the pigments are. I'm not going to get very technical because I can't even pronounce half the words of this whole process.
Yeah.
And then all the visual matches that we get in, anything that comes in from the paint line will be marked on the side of the coil with a big sticker, visual match only. And basically what they're telling you is this coil was painted with this paint run. Typically it could be anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000 pound standard paint run. Don't mix that with any other paint run. It could be run the same day, but one run in the morning and one run at night, and it can vary. Okay. As far as the appearance of the material.
Yeah. So visual match literally means due to the formulation of that particular color, a computer can't read the spectrum in order to perfectly match batch to batch. So it's actually visually matched at the paint line or at the paint company. That's why you're not supposed to mix batches.
It's a visual match at the paint line. And also in our facility, when we're processing material, you don't want to see variances in a coil. But you can look at this coil, and if you got another one that was run a couple of months ago or something, it might look a little different. You just know you don't want to put those on the same project.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You know, if someone's not aware of this and they get two different coils from two different batches of paint runs and they go to put it on the same project, you know, what are some of those problems that could come up? What would that look like?
A lot of times it happens because they'll run a job, and let's use a matte black or something, or an antique black. You don't want to use a coil that was run from another job in with a new run that you got coming in, because you put it up there on the roof. It might be perfect, but it could very well look different from the ground visually. One might look like it's kind of faded out a little bit. The color will be off. I've had instances where one looked a little greenish compared to another one. So.
Okay, so you could get tiger striping from panels. The one half of the roof might look one way and the other half of the roof might look a different way.
Absolutely. And it doesn't take a whole big difference for it to look like that either. I mean, little subtle changes really show up when you got a big wide panel like that.
Do you have any instances where contractors will use the same color but from a different paint batch on maybe one side of a building versus a different side of a building? Is there ways to kind of, utilize that coil that way?
And that's what we advise. I mean, and you can do that if you happen to have some material left over, you can use that for one side of a roof or something like that. Just make sure that it does do one side and don't put any on the other side with the new material that's got coming in.
Yeah.
On those particular colors. I mean, and metallics are by far the worst. I mean, you do not want to mix any metallics. If you run that job right after we ship it out, and you run short or mess up a few panels or something like that, if you call us right away, it's a very good chance we will still have some of that paint run on the floor where we can get you some more material. If you can't, then what you're going to have to do is just scrap whatever you got and use a whole different batch for another side of the building.
Okay. So Sheffield keeps track of those colors that have those particular batch requirements. So if I'm a contractor, I know what paint run my coil came from.
Yeah, all you got to do is give us the coil number or your purchase order number, something like that. Anything we can backtrack it to when it was coded, we keep records of all of that stuff. Customers should too. So
yeah. So you mentioned metallics, you mentioned matte black, antique black. What are some other colors that are these visual match?
in our little world, we deal with like 3 different colors. We'll have basic colors like the browns and the bronzes. They're the dull colors. They're made with inorganic pigments, and they are from batch to batch. They're going to look the same. Now, there is an instance I'll get to in a minute that I ran into a while back, but all of those are good to run from batch to batch, no problems. And then you get into some of the organic colors, which are going to be the white, vibrant colors of reds, some whites, and the black, something as that one end of the spectrum or the other. Those are a little bit iffy too. We don't have much trouble with our whites because our whites are pretty basic. The brighter colors will have more pigments on them than the duller colors.
Inorganic pigments, organic pigments, and there was a third category you mentioned.
Is the metallics.
Gotcha.
And the metallics, the reason that a lot of those, we don't even give out on the warranty, it doesn't even state anything about color change or metallic because it can't be measured. The metallics have either mica flakes or aluminum metal flakes in them that give them the look. And you can look at that panel from this side and it looks one way. You walk over here a little bit and it looks totally different. Anytime they're doing a metallic, to run it all out of the same batch, and it's very directional.
I see.
So if you start running a roof, you got to make sure that all your panels run. And all of our metallics have arrows on the back of the metal, so showing the direction of the rolls.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely a lot more to paint than people think.
Oh yeah. I mean it's the science. They got it down pat, but there's just some things that are beyond their control.
Yeah.
If you can't get a good measurement on it, you can't get it dialed in. And that's basically what the problem is with some of this stuff.
Now, you mentioned with the inorganic pigments that there was an instance that you ran into where there was an issue where there typically isn't with those colors.
Yeah, what had happened was that I had a large job. I had the material on the floor, but one half of it was from one paint line and the other was from another paint line. It was the same paint company, but 2 different lines in 2 different states. And the paint lines, they have tolerances, highs and lows that they can go. Apparently, the paint line up there went on the high end of the tolerance. Paint line over here went on the low end of the tolerance. Both coils were in tolerance. Put it on a roof, and it was terrible. I mean, you just see it right off the bat. So we didn't know. I mean, at that point, it was impossible to take out everything and separate it.
Okay. Yeah. So earlier I mentioned there's documentation about this stuff. Tell me a little bit about how a manufacturer like Sheffield helps to make sure that those kind of problems don't happen with contractors, and we're communicating this, and where can they find that list of colors that they shouldn't mix batches with?
Now we do put stickers on, and on the paperwork and on the coils. Do not match mixed batches and stuff like that. Most everybody knows. I mean, metallics are easy. Everybody knows that. Other than that, we have just a handful of other ones. The bright red, the regal blue a little bit. Regal blue's gotten a lot better than it used to be, and the blacks.
And that's something to be aware of because, the black colors are super popular. They go on all kinds of projects.
Yeah, make sure if you do have an issue with anything, and it is one of these colors, don't just, because we don't know, don't just go out and order more silver metallic put it on this job, you need to let us know that it is an ongoing job and it needs to match what you bought previously. So if you don't tell us, most people order per job. At that point, it doesn't matter, but you got to let us know if it's got to match this particular project that you're doing now.
Well, thanks, Tom. I really appreciate it. I know, like I said, that there's a lot more to paint than people think, and especially when it comes to matching on a job site and visual match colors. Thanks for sharing your information.
Anytime. Have a good day.
If you have any questions, please comment down below. Check out SheffieldMetals.com to get Sheffield's color cards and to see those visual match colors there. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to the Metal Roofing channel. As always, I'm Thad Barnette. We'll catch you next time.